On June 18th, 2022, unsettling news broke out from Japan. A woman's body had been discovered in the middle of a secluded forest. She was found hanging from a tree, completely naked, with visible marks on her neck. The scene was deeply disturbing. Her body had already begun to decompose, suggesting she'd been dead for quite some time. At first glance, it looked like a case of sexual assault, a lone, unclothed woman in the forest. It pointed to something violent, something predatory. But as investigators dug deeper, what they uncovered wasn't just a tragic assault. It was something far more twisted. A story about lust, obsession, and how a man seen by many as an ordinary good guy could hide the soul of a predator. This is the kidnapping and murder case of Rina Arano. Four days before the body was found, on June 14th, police had arrested a 33-year-old salaryman named Hiroyuki Sanpei. He was taken into custody at his own villa in Hitachiota City, located in Ibaraki Prefecture. The charge was suspicion of kidnapping. Sanpei admitted to meeting the woman in question, 23-year-old adult model Rina Arano. He said they met outside Mito Station, a meeting that was actually caught on CCTV. The footage showed Rina getting into a car with him. From that point on, she vanished. When police searched his villa, they couldn't find Rina. No obvious signs of where she might have gone. But what they did find was alarming. Dozens of explicit photos and videos of Rina, some of her in sexually suggestive positions, others showing sadomasochistic acts. The man in the videos looked just like Sanpei. He claimed it was all consensual, but when they asked him where is Rina now, he didn't have an answer. The police didn't waste time. They organized search teams and began combing the surrounding area. Sanpei's villa was in a fairly isolated spot, quiet, rural, with little around it except for a few homes, mostly occupied by elderly residents. The investigation expanded into the forests nearby, and that is where they found her. On June 18th, buried deep in the woods, officers discovered the body of a young woman. She was hanging from a tree without any clothes. There were marks around her neck, and she was already decomposing. It was one of the worst scenes some of the officers had ever encountered. The body was sent for autopsy. 3 days later, on June 21st, the results came in. The victim had clear signs of abuse prior to death. The cause was a broken bone in her neck, most likely from manual strangulation. The forensic doctor estimated that she had been dead for around 2 weeks before her body was found. But there was no ID, no personal belongings, nothing to say who she was. So the police released a public description. And it didn't take long. Fans came forward, saying they recognized her from her physical features, especially a distinctive mole and the shape of her teeth. Based on those descriptions, the woman was believed to be Rina Arano, a 23-year-old adult video performer with a sizable following. The police then reached out to her family. It turned out they had already filed a missing persons report back on June 8th. According to them, Reena had last been seen on June 5th, and the last confirmed sighting was CCTV footage showing her getting into a car with a man near Mito Station, and that man was Hiroyuki Sanpei. 3 days after the autopsy report came out, his name resurfaced in connection to the body. It was now clear that the person they'd already arrested was strongly linked to this horrific crime. But strangely, for a case this brutal, naked body, strangulation tied to a tree, media coverage remained limited. There were no major reports about trial dates or court rulings, no follow-up on whether justice was served. This silence led to growing speculation. Some began to wonder if Sanpei's family held influence. Could that be why the case faded from public attention so quickly? Why, despite the disturbing nature of Rina's death, no solid updates ever made it to the public? So, who were Hiroyuki and Rina? What was their connection? And how did a girl like Rina end up at the center of such a horrifying case? Rina Arano was born in 1999, the youngest of three sisters. She grew up in what many would consider an ideal household. Her father worked for a foreign pharmaceutical company, someone who left early every morning in a sharp suit, always looking put together. Her mother was known in the neighborhood not just for her kind heart, but for her beauty. Tall, slim, with big eyes and a delicate face. People often said she looked like someone out of a magazine. Those features were passed down to her daughters, who were both described as doll-like. The older sister had what people called a good girl look, sweet, classic, always smiling. Rina, the youngest, was praised for her porcelain-like face and gentle demeanor. Their family didn't just look perfect from the outside. Neighbors recalled them as warm, respectful people. Rina grew up in downtown Tokyo. She was a bit shy as a child, but she made the effort to smile and say hello. She was shorter than most of her classmates, which only added to her doll-like charm. And despite her quiet side, she was popular. Some described her as standing at the top of the school social hierarchy. She was fun, friendly, and confident. Academically and athletically, she held her own too. She was even chosen to represent her school in a relay competition. What made Rina stand out, even from a young age, was how much she cared about her appearance. While most girls in elementary school barely thought about such things, Rina already had a routine. She talked about skincare, about lightening her skin, about losing weight. Classmates remembered her as someone who was driven, not just by beauty standards, but also by a vision for the future. She wanted to become a doctor. She studied hard and genuinely seemed to dream of helping others, of saving lives and bringing smiles to people in need. After elementary school, she entered Yamawaki Gakuen, a respected private all-girls school in Akasaka. It was the kind of school that led most of its students straight into university. Her photos from that time show her wearing the standard school hairstyle, braided pigtails, neat, in uniform. It suited her well. But after she graduated, something changed. Unlike most of her classmates, Rina didn't go to college. Instead, she enrolled in a medical vocational school. Some say it was a nursing program, but not long after starting, she dropped out, just like that. And that's where her path took a different turn. So, what happened? After leaving school, it seems Rina entered the adult industry almost immediately. Maybe she started small, working in places like cabaret clubs, but by early 2019, she was already known in the world of soaplands. For context, soap ladies in Japan typically work in bathhouses that offer not just baths, but private adult services. Rina worked at a place called New Ruby in Nishikawaguchi under the nickname Yumeno. And she didn't stay in the background. She quickly rose to the top of the rankings. She was reportedly competing for the #1 spot at the establishment. She had a loyal following, with some clients visiting repeatedly. In that space, she wasn't just another face. She was a star. During this time, Rina's life began spiraling deeper into a world that very few ever managed to escape. She had become a regular at host clubs, luxurious night spots where women pay to drink and be entertained by male hosts. And she wasn't just a casual customer, she was hooked, some say addicted. She eventually left her family home and moved to Kabukicho, Tokyo's most infamous red light district. It's believed she lived there with her boyfriend at the time, who, according to some sources, was a host himself. Rina didn't just visit the club, she spent a lot. Champagne towers, extravagant gifts, tribute-level spending. On some nights, she reportedly dropped 700,000 yen in a single sitting. That's over $5,000 in one night, an amount that couldn't have come solely from her parents' money. Many believe that this lifestyle, this need to maintain appearances and support her boyfriend, was what pushed her into becoming a soap lady. For a while, the identity of this boyfriend was a mystery, but later on, rumors began pointing to Hitoshi Hiragi, a well-known host at Club Decent in Kabukicho, Shinjuku. If true, this meant she wasn't just involved with any host. She was entangled with one of the top stars of the scene. But the relationship didn't last. Around 2021, the two reportedly broke up, and Reena returned to her parents' home. Still, even after going back to her family, she didn't leave the adult industry. In fact, some argue she never planned to. She had fully embraced the world she entered. Between February 2021 and June 2022, just before she disappeared, Reena appeared in 82 adult videos. Most were produced under FC2, an independent platform popular among Japan's indie creators. Her presence in these videos was first recognized on an anonymous forum, 5chan. Users on the site noticed that the girl reported missing, Rina Arano, had a mole and teeth that looked exactly like an AV actress known as Mari-chan. Her eyes were different though. This led people to suspect that she may have undergone cosmetic surgery to enhance her appearance. As this theory gained traction, Mari-chan's videos were suddenly deleted. That, if anything, only fueled the speculation further. People now believed Reena was Mari-chan. If you are unfamiliar with how Japan's indie adult video industry works, especially through platforms like FC2 or Twitter, it's a whole different world from mainstream studios. Most of these creators advertise on social media, using terms like modeling instead of explicitly saying they produce adult content. Many of the photographers and producers are amateurs, and the pay varies. Whether a model is willing to show her face or not can drastically affect her earnings. Some reportedly make more than 200,000 yen per shoot. Reena by then was considered a popular model. She had even launched her own fan club, which brought in over 1 million yen per month. Her Twitter presence also grew rapidly, and before her account went private, you could stroll through the replies and see just how many fans adored her. And it was through this growing Twitter popularity that she caught the attention of a man named Hiroyuki Sanpei. So who exactly was Hiroyuki, and what made a man like him to pursue someone like Reena? Hiroyuki Sanpei was born in September 1988, the eldest son of his family. He was originally from Koriyama City in Fukushima Prefecture, but he moved to the United States when he was still in kindergarten, following his father's job transfer. His dad was an engineer working for a major company. He stayed in the US until the 6th grade. When the family moved back to Japan in April 2001, Hiroyuki entered a local junior high school. Despite having spent much of his childhood abroad, he readjusted quickly. According to friends, he had no trouble blending in and quickly made a lot of friends. It's believed he lived with his grandfather for a time, at least until high school. And thanks to his family's wealth, he had access to the best education money could buy. After finishing high school in Japan, he enrolled in a university in the United States. His mother was said to be very involved in his education, dedicated and focused when it came to raising her son. His father, on the other hand, was more withdrawn. Neighbors recalled that, at times, they heard unsettling sounds coming from the house late at night, the sound of objects being thrown. Over time, Hiroyuki reportedly became violent toward his own family. At some point in his 20s, Hiroyuki got married. His wife was someone he had gone to the same high school with. Back then, they weren't close, but after reconnecting through social media in adulthood, their relationship began. And it eventually led to marriage. On the surface, Hiroyuki Sanpei seemed to have it all. He had a promising career, a strong command of English, thanks to his years in the US, and a track record at work that set him apart from his peers. His language skills gave him a competitive edge in Japan's corporate world, and he was promoted ahead of others, earning high pay and praise at a young age. To people who knew him from the outside, Hiroyuki looked like someone living a picture-perfect life. A beautiful, kind wife by his side, a well-paying job, a bright future. But behind that carefully maintained image, something else was growing. In November 2016, he bought a villa in Hitachiota City, Ibaraki Prefecture. He moved in with his wife, and at first, they seemed like the perfect couple. Neighbors remembered seeing them relaxing together on the wooden deck, sipping tea and enjoying the peaceful surroundings. To anyone passing by, they looked content, quiet, affectionate, even romantic. But about 6 months to a year after moving in, something shifted. The couple spoke with an elderly neighbor and mentioned plans to relocate to Kawasaki. Not long after, they left. After that, only Hiroyuki came back, every month or two, to tend the garden or pull weeds. His wife stopped visiting entirely. So people started to wonder what had happened. Then, after the shocking news of the murder case hit the media, the truth began to surface. Hiroyuki's wife had filed for a divorce, not because of work or distance or personality differences, but because of his criminal past. During what was supposed to be their happy marriage, Hiroyuki had been arrested not once, but 3 times between 2016 and 2017. The first arrest happened in January 2016 after Hiroyuki assaulted a police officer in Hitachinaka City. The incident had occurred in December 2015, and while the officer sustained minor injuries, Hiroyuki denied the charges and faced no real punishment. But things got worse. On January 17, 2017, he was arrested again, this time for hugging a 26-year-old woman on the street without consent, and then pushing her to the ground. The attack left her with injuries that took 3 weeks to heal. Then came the third arrest, just days later on January 25th. This time, he was caught strangling a 32-year-old woman from behind, dragging her down and assaulting her. All those women were strangers, people Hiroyuki had just met on the street. Despite the severity of the second and third incidents, Hiroyuki managed to avoid prosecution. He and his father reportedly paid large settlement fees to the victims, money that helped him escape legal consequences, but not the breakdown of his marriage. Once his wife discovered what he had done, she left him. After the divorce, Hiroyuki quit his company and moved to Minami-Ashikara City in Kanagawa Prefecture in December 2017. Not long after, he joined Fujifilm Engineering, a major company in the region, as a chief-level employee. But how did someone with a criminal record land such a high-ranking job? It's simple, he lied. He faked part of his career history and left out any mention of his arrests. And despite the new position, his attitude didn't improve. Reports later revealed that he caused trouble for colleagues and was known for his bad behavior at work. So how did Hiroyuki Sanpei and Rina Arano, 2 people from such different backgrounds, end up connected? It all started with Twitter. Hiroyuki found Reena through her social media, where she promoted her content and engaged with fans. She often replied to people who praised her work, hoping to find potential clients or collaborators for photo shoots or adult videos. Hiroyuki messaged her under the guise of being a fan, someone who liked her work, someone harmless. So they talked frequently. And at some point, probably around February or March 2022, they agreed to meet in person. What exactly happened during that meeting? No one knows for sure. Some believe the meeting was to discuss filming a video together. Others think it may have been for a more private transaction, but there's no evidence either way. But one thing is clear, whatever happened between them in those early meetings eventually led to something Reena didn't survive. After talking online for weeks, Reena and Hiroyuki agreed to meet again, this time to discuss the terms of their contract before filming content together. It was June 5th, 2022. They decided to meet around 10 a.m. at the north exit of JR Mito Station. Reena, who was still living with her parents, told them she was going out to meet an acquaintance. Just a casual hangout, she said. She'd be back by evening. But Reena never came back. Her parents waited the entire day, then another and another. After 3 days with no contact, they started calling around, friends, colleagues, anyone who might have heard from her. No one had. On June 8th, her parents reported her missing. Investigators began retracing her steps. They checked places she was known to visit and reviewed surveillance cameras in the area she mentioned. That's when they found it, a CCTV recording near Mito Station. It showed Reena getting into a car with a man. The timestamp matched the day she left home. Police traced the car's registration, which led them to a quiet, secluded villa in Hitachiyota City, Ibaraki Prefecture. It was isolated, surrounded by trees and very few neighbors. But locals helped the police identify the villa's owner, Hiroyuki Sanpei, the 33-year-old salaryman who, according to neighbors, had recently been visiting the villa more frequently. On June 14th, Hiroyuki was brought in for questioning. At first, he denied everything. He admitted he knew Rina, but claimed he had nothing to do with her disappearance. The police weren't convinced. They split into teams, some scouring the villa, others checking Hiroyuki's phone. And what they found raised every alarm. Inside the villa, they discovered a basement, but not the kind filled with storage boxes or old furniture. This room had dim lighting, a bed, and a set of handcuffs attached to it. The mattress had traces of unknown liquid substance, believed to be either lubricant or dried semen. Meanwhile, the digital forensics team found a collection of homemade videos on Hiroyuki's phone. The clips showed a woman handcuffed involved in BDSM acts with a man assumed to be Hiroyuki himself. The footage was crude, amateur, and deeply disturbing. When investigators looked closely at the woman's face, they realized it was Rina. With that, their suspicion grew. Police questioned Hiroyuki again, asking directly, "Where is she?" He stuck to his story. Yes, he met Rina. Yes, they shot videos. Yes, it involved BDSM. But he claimed it was all consensual. According to him, after filming, he simply dropped her off at a nearby shop. That's all he knew, or so he said. Still, the police pressed on. They expanded their search around the villa, covering more ground, every trail, every path through the surrounding forest. Then, on the morning of June 18th, someone screamed. A man had stumbled upon something in the woods and, frozen in fear, simply pointed with a trembling hand. There, tied to a tree, completely naked and half decomposed, was a woman's body. The stench was overwhelming. Some of the officers on the scene vomited from the smell. The scene was gruesome. Her skin had darkened, bloated from decay. And even in that state, there were signs, clear and undeniable. The Metropolitan Police Department released an early statement. There was no visible trauma to the body except for a wound on the neck. Not a cut, but the kind of pressure mark left behind by strangulation. There was no identification, no belongings, nothing on the body to tell them who she was. The remains were sent for autopsy. On June 21st, the results came back. The forensic team found that the woman had suffered a broken left hyoid bone, a small U-shaped bone at the base of the tongue. It was fractured and even split, indicating that it had been crushed with significant force. So the cause of death was strangulation. Initially, police suspected the victim may have been involved in another case, so they released details of her appearance, hoping someone could help identify her. And someone did. Fans came forward, saying the mole on her face and the shape of her teeth matched someone they recognized, Rina Arano, a 23-year-old adult video actress with a dedicated online following. When the police contacted her family, who had already filed a missing persons report earlier that month, the identification was confirmed. Rina had gone missing on June 5th. The last known image of her alive was the CCTV footage, showing her entering a car with Hiroyuki Sanpei. It was all starting to come together. Despite mounting evidence, video files, physical traces, and now a body, Hiroyuki kept silent. He repeated his earlier claims and refused to say anything more. But this time, his silence couldn't protect him. On June 24th, the Metropolitan Police Department officially rearrested Hiroyuki Sanpei, this time on suspicion of abandoning a corpse. The investigation didn't stop there. On September 9th, just a few months after the discovery of Rina's body, Hiroyuki Sanpei was rearrested, this time on suspicion of murder. But beyond that, not much else has been shared publicly. As of now, there is no clear update on how the prosecution moved forward, what charges stuck, or what punishment, if any, Hiroyuki has received. And that silence has only fueled speculation. Some people believe Hiroyuki may have found a way to escape true justice. After all, in his version of events, he and Rina filmed a consensual BDSM video, and her death was the result of an accident during that session. If that were somehow proven, or if reasonable doubt was established, he might not be prosecuted for murder at all. But others aren't convinced. Many see Hiroyuki as someone with a history of violence and a pattern of behavior, a man who repeatedly hurt women, took advantage of them, and walked away. To them, Rina's death wasn't an accident. It was the tragic, inevitable outcome of someone whose obsession had crossed every boundary. The case also sparked wider conversations about the safety of sex workers, especially those working independently or through smaller agencies. People started asking questions. If someone agrees to provide a service, does that mean they consent to everything? What happens when that consent is violated? Because being a sex worker does not equal complete consent, and sadly, that's something society still struggles to understand. And at the same time, some of the public discourse turned dark and disturbing. Instead of talking about justice or consent, a few people began searching for Rina's old adult videos, or questioning why anyone would want to film porn like Hiroyuki. It's hard to imagine a more disrespectful response. These reactions show just how far we still have to go when it comes to recognizing the dignity and humanity of people in the adult industry. No matter what someone's job is, no one deserves to die the way Rina did. And even though we still don't know the full outcome of the legal process, I hope Rina finds the justice she deserves. And more than anything, may she rest in peace. So, what do you think? Was Rina murdered? Or do you think it really was an accident during a shoot gone wrong? And beyond this one case, what do you think about the adult industry? And where do we draw the line between consent, control, and exploitation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.